Men, if you're ready to reclaim your edge, listen up. I used to be held back by constant bathroom trips with multiple wake-ups during my sleep and looking for restrooms whenever I was out. Then I discovered Better Man. After just 2 months, I started experiencing fewer trips to the bathroom, less urge to go, and I even slept through some nights. I feel a noticeable boost in my overall well-being, even sexual stamina. It gives me the freedom and confidence to live life on my terms. Better Man is clinically tested and trusted by thousands of men over 25 years. Ready to take back control? Go to BeBetterNow.com to order your supply today. That's BeBetterNow.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Use as directed. Individual results may vary.
Today, we'll hear about Brittany's Disneyland trip. That's coming up on this episode 458 of WDW Prep to Go. Hello and welcome to WDW Prep to Go, where we talk strategy and ideas for people planning their Disney World trips. And we have lots and lots of trip reports. I am your host, Shannon Albert from WDWPrepSchool.com. Thank you for being here for episode 458. Today is another trip report. This one is for Disneyland. And if you've been around long enough, you know I'm always trying to convert Disney World people to be Disneyland people. So I'm always excited to talk to people who make that leap because I think it is well worth it. And it's one that I regret not making sooner than I did way back when. But I'll have my chats with Brittany in just a moment. I did want to remind you that we do have information on the website where we categorize the podcast episodes by lots of different things so that you can go and look at the episode numbers that relate to your trip. So for instance, every episode gets categorized by resort. So if you're like, okay, I'm going to be booked at this resort for my upcoming trip, I want to listen to other reports of people that have stayed there. All the resorts are categorized. We also have it by month. So if you wonder what it's like to travel in a specific month of the year, you can go see the episodes that took place in those months. And then we have lots of different travel styles. And so if any of these resonate with you, I would encourage you to go look at the episode numbers that correspond to these so you can go back and listen. We have solo travel, adults only, large groups, traveling with little ones, Adventures by Disney, Disney Cruise, international parks, Universal, Hilton Head, Run Disney, people who use the DAS system during their trips, split stays, surprises, and food allergies or special diets. So the link to that is always in the show notes. When I say at the end of the episode, I say go to the website and click on podcast at the top and scroll down. That's where you do. You click on podcast at the top. And there's this sort of finder that categorizes. We only have the episodes back to, I think, 2020, because when we started categorizing them, I just felt like anything before that was a little bit irrelevant because things have changed so much in the last several years. So encourage you to go look at the podcast finder to find episodes relevant to your trip plans or to help you decide on your trip plans. I think that is it for now. Here are my chats with Brittany. Welcome to the podcast, Brittany.
Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
We are talking on Thursday, March 27th, and I understand you are headed to the West Coast.
Yes, we're going to Disneyland next week for my kids' spring break.
And what are your trip dates?
We will fly out on April 1st, and we come back on April 6th. So that's Tuesday to Sunday.
Okay. Tuesday to Sunday. And who's going on this trip?
So it's going to be my immediate family, me and my husband, Dan, our 2 kids. My daughter, Selah, is, 9. And then my son, Eamon, is 5. And my mom is coming with us. She lives in the Chicago area near us. So she'll be coming along on the flight. And we're meeting my sister because she lives in Fullerton, which is like 20 minutes from Anaheim. So she'll be joining us for most of the trip, not like staying in the hotel, but coming to the parks and doing some activities.
Have you ever been to Disneyland?
Not exactly. The last time I went to visit my sister, we went to downtown Disney and I walked up to the gates for Oogie Boogie Bash and was like, I want to go in. But I've never actually been to the parks.
Was that kind of recently?
Yeah, it was last October.
Okay, because I feel like I remember you posting about that in the patron group.
Yeah.
because I remember thinking, oh, that would be a heck of a tease.
Yeah, for real. It was really hard.
And I think sometimes when people go to Orlando, like for a work conference or whatever it is, they will often be like, oh, I'll just make a little visit. I'm like, that would be really hard to just look in
Uh-huh.
and not be able to go in. But in Disneyland, it feels even easier because, like you said, you can
Yeah.
go to downtown Disney and the parks are
It's
right
just
there.
right there. It's just right there. It was so close.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is your first time in the parks. So
Yes.
first time planning. Okay. And where are you guys staying?
We're staying at the Hyatt Place Anaheim, which is considered walking distance. I think it's about a 20-minute walk, so it's really pushing that limit. But the Hyatt Place Anaheim is right across the street from the Toy Story parking lot. So I think what we will do, a friend tried this strategy a few months ago, is walk, even though it's the far side where the buses are, I think we'll walk to the buses at Toy Story, go through security there, and then take the buses to the gate.
Yeah, I am just looking it up on a map.
I
It's
don't think
definitely,
it'll save time, but it'll save 10 minutes of walking.
yeah, that walk can feel big at the end of the day,
Yeah,
but you might feel more like doing it in the morning. That is not too far from the Anaheim Convention Center.
right. Yeah, it's right
And
there.
and in fact, that's what it's called. It's called the Hyatt Place at Anaheim Convention Center. And that's where I stayed on my, I think, last trip. And that
Oh, okay.
it's a lot of, it was a lot of steps, but
Yeah.
you have options. So how did you choose to stay there?
We're staying on points. We have a ton of Chase rewards, and we paid for the hotel entirely on points.
That is a nice thing you can do at
Yes,
Disneyland.
yes. It is. It's so nice. You can't do that at Disney World. I mean, you can, but not for a truly on-site hotel.
Yeah, I mean, you have the Swan Dolphin, but you don't
Right.
have lots of options and every chain that
Exactly.
when
Yeah.
and in California you do. So
Yeah. And it's nice, breakfast is provided. So that's a huge help too.
okay. So you said it starts April 1st on Tuesday, so I assume that is a travel day.
Yeah, we are going to Uber to O'Hare. It's 30 minutes for us. And then our flight is, let me see, I wrote this down. Yeah, our flight is at 10 a.m. And so we're going to Uber with my kids' booster seats to, like, the booster seats and the car seats are a whole thing because at Disney World, we don't ever rent a car. And this time we had to really think about it because we're going to be out and about in the Anaheim area. So we're bringing their booster seats. We'll need them for the Uber anyway. And then I'm going to gate check those because you can't, when they're set up as boosters and not car seats, you can't bring them on the plane. So it's a whole thing. My kids are finally potty trained for this trip, and we don't have a diaper bag, but the darn booster seats.
You got it in a few more years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, our flight leaves O'Hare at 10 a.m. and we land at John Wayne at 12:44 p.m. And then we're going to Uber or Lyft to our hotel.
Okay. That'll be convenient, not too far from the airport to your hotel.
Yes, I wanted to avoid LAX at all costs.
Yeah, that's another thing that's unique out there is you have airport options.
Yeah.
So you get to your hotel, you'll be there in the afternoon. What does the rest of your day look like?
Yeah, we don't really have a plan for the rest of the day. I will definitely have a grocery order delivered. I need to figure out if there's a microwave in the room because that'll sort of change how I do things. I'm hoping to just have an early dinner and get the kids to bed really early because we'll be on Central Time, of course, and that will really benefit us for rope dropping the next day. And I mean, kids are hard to settle in a hotel room, so I just want to give myself plenty of runway to make sure everybody gets enough sleep, that we have time to chill. I was hoping it's definitely not going to be warm enough to swim this week. It's going to be like 68 and cloudy for a lot of it.
Which is so
I
crazy.
think we'll just kind of hang around.
The
Maybe
last
order dinner.
The last April that I was there, it was a heat wave. It was 100 degrees. And
Okay.
they
I'll take the
absolutely
cold.
well, they have a really hard time handling it because so much of California is built outside.
Yeah.
I have Anaheim on my weather permanently, so I was just looking up your
Yeah.
weather. And it looks like you do have the 60s, upper 60s, mid 60s daily, low 50s. So
Yeah.
pretty mild weather.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks like there's some rain predicted for our Hollywood or California Adventure Day. I take that with a grain of salt because things change so fast in Southern California. So I'm hoping we'll be fine and we can stay dry, but otherwise it looks like it'll be decent and mild, if not chilly, which is fine by me because it'll feel a lot warmer than here.
Yes. Well, I guess relatively speaking, that's true. Okay, so then I assume Wednesday, April 2nd is your first park day.
Yes, we are headed to Disneyland on that day, hoping everybody is going to sleep great and we can rope drop really early. My plan is to leave the hotel around 6:40 in the morning to get to the Toy Story parking lot by 7 when they start running those shuttles. I would love to be at the front of the pack for rope drop so that, I mean, we like to take our time, enjoy Main Street. I don't want to be rushing everybody through and just enjoy being there first thing and then line up.
And are you going to be using lightning lanes?
Yes, I have the multi-pass for both of our park days.
Which is so confusing because it's called multi-pass, but it functions like Genie Plus.
Yes.
You know both systems.
Yes. And I was talking about it yesterday. My daughter corrected me. It's called Genie Plus. I was like, no, it's not. Not anymore.
It's not called it, but it does work
But it
like
is.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, but
It is. So you pre-purchased that or you're buying it after you get in the park?
I pre-purchased it.
Okay. All right. So,
And then I actually had one question. I could just Google this. I know you can book your first one when you enter the park or at park opening. So if
You
I get there at 7:30, I can book it then. Okay.
Yes. And in fact, when I was there was a convention going on. I was just a guest of somebody at the convention, and I was advising the people at the convention to dip into the parks, tap in,
Oh,
because you
smart.
can't start booking lightning lanes until you tap in.
Yeah.
So we treated it like a morning walk. We're just
Mhm.
going on a walk to Disneyland, tapping in, and then walking right back.
Yeah.
Because that gives
That's
you a head
really smart.
it gives you a head start. Okay. So
Another
what are your
reason to get there early.
Yes. And I am going to be very interested to hear your post trip and just comparisons to Disney World, because I think you will find it to be a different vibe, even at
Yeah.
rope drop, because California.
Yeah.
It's just
And my
different.
plans are much looser too. One, because I don't fully understand the flow of the park, having not been there before, but I have a lot of like in my plans, if this, then that. And if this, then do that.
Mhm.
So just, I guess, a lot of checking times and figuring out because I don't like doing a lot of crisscrossing. And so we do like to sort of tackle areas one at a time if we can, but it'll, I guess, just kind of depend. So anyway, we can go through that. But my priority is Peter Pan. So if we're toward the front of the pack, it seems, at rope drop, we'll head straight to Peter Pan. But I don't want to get caught in like a 40-minute line at rope drop either if we're sort of toward the middle or the back, because we can wait 40 minutes for Peter Pan anytime. It doesn't seem like it gets up till 90 the way it does at Disney World. So if we're toward the middle, I think we'll start with Alice and then just work our way around Fantasyland and then do Peter Pan at some point in there when it makes sense. I would love, to wait less than 30 minutes for that if possible.
Mm-hmm. So Fantasyland, obviously your first priority.
Yes.
And how are you feeling about, I mean, obviously if you're riding Peter Pan, if it has a similar ride at Disney World, you are doing it at Disneyland still.
Yes, definitely. Because Peter Pan is like our family favorite. Everybody's excited for it. So we would not miss it.
They are different mostly.
Yeah.
So, okay. What else? What do you have, dining plans or other things going on this day?
Yeah. So we have a dining reservation at 1 p.m. at Carnation Cafe. And I don't even remember why I picked that exactly. Probably for the kids menu, because I have one picky eater and then one like neurodivergent picky eater who is also a vegetarian. So I'm always looking at the menus to see, is there even something she would tolerate here, and making decisions based on that. Plus, I feel like, do they have a fried chicken or something? Or I don't know. There was like one specialty dish there that I was like, oh, that sounds good. So we're going to eat there at 1. Hopefully everybody will be ready for a nice break at that point, because we are going to try, since we only have 2 days at the parks and it's not like this 8-day excursion, we're hoping to do rope drop to close both of these days. So without going back to the hotel, because that's a really long walk there and back midday. So we're just going to take a lot of breaks, do a lot of sitting down in between and try to make it to, I don't think they have fireworks at night, but they do have the projections, it looks like, on our days. So we've never seen any nighttime entertainment, even at Disney World. My kids just usually don't hang that late, but they're older now. So we are hoping to eat dinner at Jolly Holiday because my kids are really big Mary Poppins fans, and it looks like that just reopened recently. It was closed for refurbishment. And we have a lot of snack priorities, only a handful of character priorities. My son really wants to meet Kylo Ren, and my daughter really wants to meet Mirabelle.
Good.
So
I think if you guys like characters, you might really enjoy your time.
yeah, they are rides first in terms of priorities. They're most important characters second, and then however everything else falls into place after that.
Okay. So then you hope to close out the park, and then we've got Thursday, April 3rd.
Yes, we are heading to California Adventure that day. Same thing, hoping to be out of the hotel around 6:45, over to the Toy Story parking lot at 7 on those shuttles. For rope drop, we're not going to follow the crowd to Radiator Springs because it seems like that's kind of a risky move in the morning. Seems like a lot of times it's shut down, or, you're looking at sometimes a 60 or a 90-minute wait if you're not at the very front of the pack. And I hear people can get a bit aggressive at rope drop trying to get to Radiator Springs. So I think we're just going to go knock out as much as we can outside of Cars Lane. And then if we feel up for a really long wait in the afternoon, we'll do it. I'm not totally opposed to buying the individual lightning lanes. So we'll just kind of see how that goes. But we're going to head to Web Slingers first, because we're hoping with DCA that we can do a bunch of the rides first and then get lightning lanes for them later in the day so that we can ride a lot of the favorites twice. So Web Slingers first, and then probably over to Pixar Pier area to knock out Midway Mania, Incredicoaster, the Ferris wheel, and then over time, re-up some of those lightning lanes for the afternoon. And probably over to Soarin' at some point that morning too, because that's a favorite and would love to ride that twice. It's Soarin' over California right now, which is fun.
They go crazy for that out there.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it.
Did you ever do that in Florida?
Yes, we've done, I think last time we were there, we rode Soarin' like 3 or 4 times. My daughter just wanted to do it over and over.
But did you do the California version?
No, Soarin' around the world only.
Okay.
Yeah, so this will be different for us.
Okay. And what about dining plans in California Adventure?
We have a 1 p.m. reservation at Lamplight Lounge.
So obviously that's a favorite of mine,
Yeah.
but did you find the menu, I guess, to be good for your family?
Yeah, it seems like it'll be fine. And it's also, even if it doesn't end up being perfect, sometimes the mac and cheese comes out and it's not what they had in their head. The mac and cheese is going to look like, there's plenty of snacks. It'll be fine. We're all very excited to try the churros. Very excited for Dole Whip at Disneyland. So we'll be doing a lot of snacking all day, I'm sure. And we would like to eat dinner at Pim's Test Kitchen, and then hopefully make it to World of Color at night. We'll see.
Nice. Do you have a strategy for seeing that?
No, that's like the one hole in my research. I realized that I don't have a plan for nighttime entertainment at either place, like how to line up, what time to line up. If it's on Lightning Lane, I don't know.
World of Color, I would definitely look into that because there are lots of different things to see that, including lightning lanes. And so you might want to do it. The last time I saw it, I remember thinking the only way to do this is by knowing. Like almost. The standby people are just kind of limited because their areas are so taken up by pre-booked things like dessert parties or lightning lanes or whatever.
Okay, so definitely a lightning lane for World of Color. Does that matter so much for the Disneyland projections? It looks like it's called Mickey's Mix Magic right now.
I've not seen that, but I've also never run into an issue at Disneyland with viewing. World of Color is different. They just put so many seats aside for different groups, and you just want to be in one of those.
Yeah. Okay, I'll be sure to do that. Thank you for the tip.
So you said you only have 2 park days, so I assume that means Friday, April 4th is somewhere else.
Yes. So my husband's going to pick up our rental car at 9 a.m. that day, and we are headed to Newport Beach, which is like 40 minutes away. We're going to do a whale watching tour at noon. TBD, I guess, how many whales we see. I know that's the last time I visited my sister, we did whale watching with this company, and we saw like hundreds of dolphins. Not whales, but the dolphins are amazing too. So my kids are very excited for that. And
What is the
then
season for whale watching there? Is it getting close to the end before they
I
start going up north?
think so. Yes, but it looks like it's still, I think it goes through May.
Okay.
And it kind of like tapers off, but it seems like I've been reading the company's daily reports and they're seeing a lot of whales right now. So I'm very hopeful that we'll see one.
Okay. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. And then are you staying in Newport Beach? Or are you changing hotels? How's this working?
No, we're just driving out there for the day. Over in that area is also Crystal Cove State Park. So we might park there for a couple of hours, do like a low level trail, or I think you can just walk down to the beach. Obviously, it'll be too cold for swimming, but my kids have never put their toes in the ocean. So we might just do that. And then dinner is not planned at the moment. It'll depend, I guess, what time we get back from our outing.
Okay. And this is the beauty of a California trip is you can
Yeah.
combine it with other things if you want.
Totally.
What is Saturday, April 5th?
That's a day we're going to spend in Fullerton with my sister. She's going to show us around her town, show us her apartment, her favorite places to eat and hang out. We'll probably do some shopping. And then we are going to have dinner at the restaurant where she works. It's called Pour Company. They brew their own beer and have cocktails, and they have really good food. So, yeah, we'll get to see all the things that she enjoys doing out there. So that day is very loose. I'm letting her totally lead.
And you said she's joining you in the parks too. So are you managing like the lighting lanes for everyone, including her?
Yes. Yeah, I'm managing for everybody.
Okay. And is
But
she a person that goes to Disneyland a lot since she's close by?
No, she's never been.
Oh,
Or no, I'm sorry. She went to California Adventure, I think once, probably 10 or 15 years ago.
okay. But it's not a regular thing for her.
No, she ended up buying the 3-day SoCal pass because it was cheaper than buying a 2-day regular pass. I think with lightning lanes, it's going to be like $200 or something like that for the 3 days. And she'll just use her other day another time. And for us, it was like almost the same price for 2 days. No, more than that. I think it was close to $400 a person.
I did the whole coast of California last summer, in June. And we were in a city all the way north in California, almost to Oregon. And we met this group of family and friends, and they were from Anaheim. And we were like, oh, we'll be there later this week as we make our way down the coast. We'll be in Disneyland. And they were like, we've never been. And they live, not only do they live in Anaheim, they live within walking distance. And it just blows my mind. It just blows my
How
mind.
do you not just get curious enough to go even once?
I know. I was like, because they get in-state passes, if they want to. So they have like blackout dates, but it's still pretty affordable. And so I was like, I would just walk over in the evening and watch fireworks, go on a couple of rides.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like a park in a way.
Yeah.
So it just blew my mind because
especially if you can walk there and you don't have to be like, oh, the parking at Disney and we have to pay for it. It's just
they were close. And there was one kid in their group. And I thought, wow, he would really love it. But
yeah,
they were not into it. So that just blew my mind. Okay, so that's the whole day in Fullerton. And then I assume Sunday, April 6th is departure.
Yes. Our flight leaves at 3:30 that day. So we're hoping to, get up, have breakfast at the hotel and pack up, put all our bags in the car, and then head over to downtown Disney for a few hours, let the kids sort of, shop for any last minute souvenirs. I did make an 11 a.m. reservation at Centrico because it looks so cool. I wanted to go there. I don't know if I'm going to end up keeping the reservation because that might just make everything feel too tight that morning because we need to actually drop off our rental car in Anaheim because they don't have an airport location we can drop off at. So we have to drop off the car at 1 and get into an Uber or a Lyft right at 1 as well to get back to the airport. on time. So I don't want to feel rushed. That
But if
morning,
you need a reservation, you have it.
we have it.
Okay.
So I'll make a game time decision on that one.
All right. Is there anything we haven't covered?
I don't think so. This trip, I've planned as much as I can, and I'm feeling like really uncomfortable with the looseness of it, but I'm
Well,
gonna try to lean into it and have fun.
I was going to ask you if the planning part was a shock because it's just so different.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think for Disney World people, it is a shock because you're used to doing so much. To the rest of the world who just assumes that vacations don't require a lot of planning,
Yeah.
it's probably, yeah, this is how it should be.
Yeah.
But
So
I am,
I'm hoping I know just enough to help us make really good decisions
Yes.
while we're there and to be able to go with the flow.
yeah, I think the level of planning is indicative of the culture there. So I think that it'll be great.
Yeah.
So, okay, we'll have a great time and I'll talk to you when you get back.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Trading shouldn't have barriers. When Robinhood started, it was built to make trading more accessible. Now Robinhood offers more sophisticated trading tools. Experience the future of trading on Robinhood Legend, the all-new desktop platform that harnesses intuitive design to deliver a seamless experience for traders. Free to use with a Robinhood account, Robinhood Legend is designed for how you trade, with powerful charts including custom intervals down to the tick, and over 80 indicators and drawing tools. Trade all your favorite assets, including popular stocks and ETFs, all in one place. Take your trading to the next level by customizing your layout in seconds and even enter and exit positions in one tap right from the chart with up to 8 charts per layout. The future of trading is fast, powerful, and precise. Experience it now on Robinhood Legend. Sign up today. Investing is risky. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. Other fees may apply.
You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Welcome back from your trip, Brittany.
Thank you so much.
We're talking on Thursday, April 10th, and you came back on April 6th. So it's been a few days. How are you feeling about your trip?
Great. I'm ready to go back.
Ready to go back. The ultimate compliment. So must have gone well. I cannot wait to hear more about it. Let's start at the beginning.
Sure.
Tuesday, April 1st, you were flying from O'Hare into John Wayne Airport.
Yes. So grown-ups got up around 5:15. We got the kids up around 6:15, tried to have just a normal morning, made breakfast, all of that. And we called a Lyft XL to head to the airport at 7:15. So we had 3 adults and 2 kids, one like full-size high back booster, and then just like the regular, like the small no back booster. Plus we each had a carry-on and a personal bag. We checked one bag for the family with like big sunscreens, big hairspray, like the bulky sweaters, things that don't fit super well in carry-ons. And then we also checked 2 big suitcases that were empty. One was nested inside the other to bring to my sister because my sister is moving back to Chicago in July, I think. And so she wanted us to take some stuff back with us so that she has less to do. So it was an adventure getting everything into one lift, but it fit fine. We still had seats for everybody and a little bit of room to spare. And so we made it to the airport. We checked our bags and were through security around 8:30 for our 10 a.m. flight. And we grabbed some food and coffee for everybody. I did online check-in for our hotel. And then we had the slightest flight delay just because loading takes so much longer, I think, than they allow for. So we took off at 10:15 instead of 10:05, and our plane landed at 1:15 instead of 12:45. So we called a Lyft once we got to John Wayne. We got all our bags. We called a Lyft to our hotel. That driver was also like totally unfazed by our bags. They sent a minivan, not to be confused with minivans at Disney World.
Yeah, lowercase minivan.
Yes, lowercase one-word minivan. And it took about 25 minutes to our hotel in some traffic, which is really not bad. I think without traffic, it would only be 20 minutes. And so we arrived at the hotel around 2 o'clock.
And this was the Hyatt Place Anaheim.
Yes, we loved it. We booked 6 nights there on points. We mostly use like our Chase Ultimate rewards for Hyatt. And so it was 15,000 points a night for a room that sleeps 5. It's a standard queen room with 2 queen beds and then an extra, it's one long room. And then there's a little extra space in the front with a pull-out sofa. So that was a total of 90,000 points for the week. But then before we got there, I had been in touch with the front desk manager, and she upgraded us to a specialty queen before arrival, which is like the same sleeping arrangements. Like it has the same amount of beds, but there's like a whole separate living area with the sofa and then a kitchenette with a full, not the beverage fridge, but like an actual mini fridge and a microwave. The other rooms don't have microwaves. And so having that extra space, one, just like we had enough space in the other room for all the people, but we were like, where are all the bags going to go? So there was plenty of storage in this room, and having the microwave was really helpful because I had ordered like Easy Mac and instant oatmeal, and we brought some leftovers back. And so that was really great to have that and not have to walk to the lobby every time. And the front desk manager was so nice. She just upgraded us for free.
So nice.
It was great. And when we got there, I had ordered groceries from Walmart through Instacart. They arrived like at the very beginning of the window that I had scheduled for delivery. And since we were a little bit behind, the groceries got there about 30 minutes before we did. So I just texted the hotel and asked, hey, is it okay if these are at the front desk? They said yes. But then they had someone able to bring them up to the room for us. So they were in the room when we got there. And they also had little gift bags waiting for my kids when we got there. Each one had like just a little bag with Disney stickers, what else? Coloring books, bubbles, and little Mickey ears, and lots of snacks. And then they had attached balloons to the bags in my kids' favorite colors. And it just made them feel so special. I'm like, guys, this isn't normal. Don't get used to this. But it just really set us up, like the magic kind of started instantly. This hotel also had a daily hot breakfast buffet, which we definitely took advantage of. And the only thing that was tricky about this hotel, and I wouldn't even call it a complaint, is that the walls and the ceilings are a little thin. And with it being so close to Disneyland, people are just coming and going at all hours, and there are a ton of kids in the hotel. So we could hear a lot of footsteps when the kids had fallen asleep, but the grownups had not fallen asleep yet. But we were so exhausted that it did not matter. And we wish that we had brought like power strips or like little USB hubs, because we didn't have quite enough plugs for all the devices, plus all the external chargers for all the devices, but we made it work.
Yeah, I sort of think the USB hub should just be in everyone's luggage nowadays, because I feel like a lot of hotel rooms don't have enough ports, or the ports they have just don't work. And so it's like you have to
all
find...
the connections were really loose. There were no USB ports at all. And then the regular ones were very loose. So things were like falling out all the time.
Yes. Okay. So it sounds like good impressions of the hotel, and it sounds like really good service. You had mentioned your pre-trip that you were going to have an early dinner this day. So did you do that?
Yeah. So my sister arrived at the hotel around 3:30, and my kids just went nuts seeing their Aunt Maddie. We ended up going to Golden Road Brewing, which is my favorite place in the Los Angeles area. And I didn't know they had a location in Anaheim. So that was really fun. We did not have a rental car at this point. So we put the kids' car seats in my sister's car with her and my mom. And then Dan and I took a small lift. So that was about a 10-minute ride. I think we paid $12 each way, including the tip. So it was really cheap, and it got us all there without having to go back and forth. So this restaurant had this huge outdoor area, with picnic tables and cornhole and a couple other like outdoor games. And so that was great. Like the kids got to run around and have fun. There weren't a ton of people there, so we weren't like disrupting anybody. And so we ordered really good beers. We ended up sharing like chips and salsa, pretzel, some tacos and things like that. And then we got I think I was listening to Tammy's trip report recently, and she kept it real a couple times, so I will too. We got into a little marital spat because everybody was so tired, where in advance I had sort of prepped everybody that like my number one goal is to get everyone in bed early because we're on Central Time, and I want to keep us on Central Time for the first 2 days so we have no issues with rope drop. And so we're at dinner. It's about 5:30. We're wrapping up. And the kids are like, can we go in the hot tub at the hotel? And my husband is, of course. And I'm like, what? No, I just really wanted the kids in bed early. And, like saying 10 minutes with kids is not 10 minutes. I'm like, this is going to be like a whole thing. So we ended up not doing the hot tub, but we did it later in the trip. And so we got back to the hotel room around 6. The kids were asleep by 7:30 on the pull-out sofa. It was big enough for both of them. So all the adults had a bed, which was great. And that was the end of day 1.
And to your kids, it was 9:30, which is probably
exactly
after their
they were
regular bedtime.
Super tired. They were super tired.
Yeah. Okay. So the next day was Wednesday, April 2nd, and you were headed to Disneyland.
Yes. So being on Central Time worked great for us. The kids were up by 5:15, which felt like 7:15 to them, which is actually a little later than normal for my 5-year-old. He's usually up at 6:30, so 4:30 would have been rough.
But that means they got a lot of sleep, though.
They did. They got plenty of sleep, and they were good to go. And so we thought we wouldn't originally have time for hotel breakfast. I was like, we're going to eat in the room. We're going to eat this instant oatmeal. We're going to eat on the go. We're going to take it all with us. But we were ready to like rope drop breakfast at 6 a.m. So when we got down there, it was probably 6:05, 6:10, and there were already like 10 other families there. And it was busy, but there was plenty of food, plenty of tables, and it was just really nice to have that good hot breakfast because at rope drop, I'm like, we're not stopping for snacks. We're not stopping for anything. And so my sister met us at the hotel. She parked there. And we left the hotel at 6:50 to walk over to the Toy Story parking lot, which was basically 1 block away from the hotel and across the street. And so we arrived. The Toy Story buses are like in the middle of the parking lot. So it's quite a hike even once you get there. But we went through security at 7:05. We were on the buses at 7:10, and they just have them constantly running. So we sat down and the bus left. And so we were at the Disneyland gates by 7:25. They drop you off like basically right at I don't know how to say the word, Esplanade? Yeah, okay. And so we walked over to the gates. It was already super busy. We were probably 20 or 25th in line in total people, not like groups. And they started scanning everybody in right at 7:30. We took our time walking down Main Street. We didn't stop, but we didn't do pictures, but we took it all in, looked at the castle. And at 7:42, we were all lined up to the right, or as people are looking at me, to the right, I don't know, of the hub near the Tomorrowland side with all the people who were going to run to Space Mountain, but we stayed to the left so that we could get through the castle and over to Peter Pan. And I had said we would do Peter Pan if it felt like we were toward the front of the crowd, and we definitely were. We were only maybe 5 people back. And by the time they dropped the rope right at 8 a.m., like I could not see the back of the crowd. It had wrapped all the way back around Main Street. And so while we were waiting, I booked our first lightning lane for Hyperspace Mountain, and they let us in right at 8 a.m. We were in line for Peter Pan at 8:02. By 8:05, the posted wait was 30 minutes, and by 8:10, it was 45 minutes. So we were really at the front, even with a quick stroller drop-off. And by 8:25, we were off Peter Pan. So I felt like that was a really successful first ride. I wanted to get that done within about 30 minutes. And from there, the morning didn't quite go according to plan. It was so busy in Disneyland over spring break. And so then we went over to Alice in Wonderland. That wait was 40 minutes, which felt a little high. So I was like, okay, we'll come back to that. We did a walk-on for the teacups, which was just delightful. And then at 8:45, we were in line for Dumbo. It was posted at 15 minutes. We waited 25. So we were on Dumbo at 9:10. Right over there, we were near the Casey Jr. train and the storybook boats. And I think the lines were already at 20 to 25 minutes. So I was like, I wasn't sure if my kids, even though it's those are like Disneyland exclusives, I was like, my kids were not excited to do those. So I'm like, okay, this is something to circle back to if we have time later. The waits for Snow White, Pinocchio, and Alice were still already over 30 minutes. And so I was like, this is just, we wanted to knock out all of those by 10 a.m. And I was like, this is just not going to happen today. We got to think of something else. So we were just kind of hanging around trying to figure out what to do. And the kids met Alice. It was our first like roaming character interaction, which was very fun. And so she chatted with them and they kind of walked around the carousel. And then Peter Pan came up and stole the kids away mischievously and brought them over to the Sword in the Stone. I thought maybe he was going to let them pull it out, but he did. They just all tried together and it was very cute. They felt so special. And at that point, we walked to Tomorrowland because I had that Hyperspace mountain coming up. We grabbed pretzels. We tried the cream cheese pretzel and that was really good. And we used the bathroom. And at 9:42, we scanned in for Hyperspace Mountain. And once I scanned in, I booked a lightning lane next for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. So we scanned in at 9:42, and by 9:50, we were on the ride. My mom sat out because she doesn't do thrill rides, but it was me, my husband Dan, my sister Maddie, and then Selah and Eamon. Eamon is not a thrill ride lover, but the one he wanted to try was Hyperspace Mountain because it's Star Wars themed right now. And he loves Star Wars. So he's all ready for it. We sit down, and the second we start going through the very beginning tunnel with the flashing lights, he just starts sobbing hysterically. He's, I can't do it, I can't do it. And my husband's sitting next to him, and he just cried through the whole thing. He hated it, absolutely hated it. And so we got off, and he was still crying, and he was like, I never want to do that again. I never, ever want to do a roller coaster again. And
as a reminder, he's 5.
He's 5. Yes. He did Slinky Dog when he was 3 and he did not like it. And so I thought maybe he's grown up a little, maybe he will like it more, but it was just so intense for him. And it was more intense than I expected and remembered. So I get why he didn't like it, especially not being able to see anything. So he needed a win. I modified the Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway lightning lane to Buzz Lightyear because we were right there and it was basically an immediate return time. And it was posted as a 20-minute wait. So we walked onto that and then we walked back to Alice in Wonderland at 10:20. It was down. And the kids really felt done with Fantasyland. They didn't want to ride. They didn't want to wait 30 minutes for Snow White or Pinocchio. And I didn't blame them. So we changed gears again. We got popcorn buckets, walked over to Toontown, and the kids played in that little play area. And again, they're 9 and 5. So after about 10 minutes, they're like, this is kind of boring. This is for little kids. And that's fine, but it was really sad. But at least they got a little bit of playtime. And then at 10:55, Dan took Selah on Gadget Coaster, and I stayed back with Eamon and my mom and sister. They did not want to ride it. It was a posted 25, and they waited 25. And then the rest of us had coffee and snacks from Daisy's and just kind of waited for them. And at that point, while we were in line for Buzz, like after I used that lightning lane, I immediately got a new one for Mickey and Minnie's. And so we scanned in for that at 11:45. We walked right into the pre-show. The ride got stuck at the very end, and so we were off the ride around 12:15. And that one is definitely a family favorite. We all loved it. My husband did not remember much of it from Disney World 3 years ago, and so it felt like he was riding it new again. And my sister had never been on it. She thought it was really cute. And let's see, while I was in line for that, I got a lightning lane for Big Thunder for somewhere around 2:00 after lunch. And so at this point, it's about 12:20. We walked back to Alice. We had a lunch reservation at 1. So I have my eyes on the time. At Alice, the app said it was 25 minutes. The sign said 30, and the line was wrapping all the way around the ride. So I'm like, I don't know if we have time for this, but let's try it. And if we have to get out, we do. I know we had a little bit of a grace period for lunch, but it went really fast. We only waited 18 minutes. So at 12:38, we were on the ride and we loved it. That one was so cute.
It is cute.
Our group had to split into 2 different cars. So my mom and I were riding with this other family that had maybe a 2.5-year-old, and they were locals, but it was just so fun to hear her oohs and ahs enjoying it, even though she had been on it before. And so then we took pictures in front of the castle because Mom doesn't let us do that during rope drop. And we took every combination of photo we could with all the people who were there. And then at 12:50, we started heading toward lunch, and we met Cruella de Vil on Main Street. And my kids thought that was really fun. We got some great pictures. She was very funny. And at 1:05, we arrived at Carnation Cafe for our 1:00 lunch. We were seated around 1:10, so it was pretty quick. We were seated outside, and I didn't request that, but it was really nice. It was a gorgeous day. I forgot to mention this at the beginning. It was maybe like 50 when we left the hotel, and so we were all in pants and sweatshirts. And midday, it hit about 65, and it was totally sunny. And sometimes we would remove the sweatshirts because it was really warm in the sun. And the second you were in shade, it was chilly again, and we'd put the sweatshirts right back on. So we were super comfortable all day. And so we sat outside, and it was gorgeous. My husband and I split the fried chicken with mashed potatoes and green beans. It was delicious. And it came with it was either one huge chicken breast or two. So it was very easy to split. My sister got the same thing and loved it. My mom had the guacamole burger. She loved that. Eamon had the kids' chicken fried tender, which is like one giant tender with fries. And then Selah is my vegetarian child, and she's a very picky eater. She has a lot of food aversions. She also has pretty profound OCD, and so that informs like a lot of her eating choices. And so they had a peanut butter and jelly, but you never know, even when she orders her favorite things, it might come out looking weird and then she won't want it. But it was very cute. That was their check meal, so they didn't do substitutions on like the healthy sides, which was fine. She ate the carrots, and then we just ordered a side of fries for the table. But the peanut butter and jelly was build your own, and she thought that was really fun. And yeah, we just all loved our food, and it was a really nice rest, a good time to get off our feet. At about 2:15, we were just wrapping up, and the Mickey and Friends cavalcade came by. And so they ran over to the fenced area and watched that while we wrapped up payment and things like that. And then there was this one really sweet moment. It was actually at the beginning of lunch where we were all kind of reflecting on the morning, what were our favorite parts. And I said to Dan, just semi-privately, I wasn't like trying to keep it private, but it was a comment to him, which of course then my kids overhear it. And I'm like, yeah, we're like, this is so much fun. It's been a little hard to pivot, but I'm trying to be really present and focused on the rides and the kids' reactions when we're on the rides and not thinking about the next thing. But it's really hard not to think about the next thing, especially because I'm sort of reworking plans on the fly in a way I didn't expect to. And then Selah, my 9-year-old, pipes up and goes, "Oh, Mommy, I'm so sorry that you don't feel like you're really with us. That must be hard." And I was like,
Aw.
"Oh, that's very sweet, but it's okay." I was like, this is my role in our family. I'm the planner. I'm the worker, not like the worker, but like I'm the one figuring it out so that everyone else can have a seamless experience. And I was like, I feel like that's my gift to you guys. And she's, well, I appreciate the gift, but I think we should all go around and say something that we're thankful for about Mommy and what she's done for us on this trip. And I was like,
Stop.
what?
That's so sweet.
Like, how often is that invisible workload
Labor.
seen by the kids?
Yeah, because I was just thinking the planner not only does most of the work, but they feel the least present. So it feels
Yes.
like it's sort of thankless. So that's really nice.
Totally. Yeah. So she's a kid, she's a super empathetic kid and just has really deep wisdom and line of sight into how people are feeling. And so it like made me a little uncomfortable, but I also wanted her to see me appreciating that. And so that was just a really nice reset for me to hear what they were enjoying about the morning and how I had helped make the magic for them. And so, yeah, while we were at lunch, I booked a lightning lane for Smuggler's Run. And then we did a lot of regrouping during lunch too, because the park, again, was very crowded. I was trying to figure out why it felt harder than Disney World when I had expected it to feel easier. And I think it's because one, the spring break crowds were really heavy, and our last two big trips to Disney World were early March, well before spring break, kind of like end of February, and then early October when the crowds, at least at that time, were a little bit lighter. We weren't fighting school break. And also the last time we were in Disney World, we had Genie Plus and DAS for my daughter. And so it was very easy to just keep staggering those return times. And we did not apply for DAS this time because she doesn't need it. And that was definitely the right decision. But it definitely made things feel trickier as we had to decide what's our limit for standby? When do we get in a line? When do we not? And what's worth really waiting for?
What about lightning lane availability?
I did not run into any problems with it on this trip. Definitely the hottest items sold out by maybe 2 p.m.
Mhm.
Space Mountain was gone after lunch. And I think that was Mickey and Minnie's was close behind. I think at that point, return times were at like 8 p.m. But everything else we did not have. And I had already done those, so it didn't matter. So we did not have any issues with other things. We ran into a few more problems in DCA, but nothing major. So after lunch, we walked over to Big Thunder. I forgot to write those times down, but the ride had been down for a little bit, so Lightning Lane was a little backed up, but we still only waited 10 or 15 minutes.
And did your son ride that one?
No.
Okay.
He was off with grandma getting snacks.
Okay.
And I think they caught some show, they played a game, and just kind of wandered around the area. So then at 3, we walked over to Galaxy's Edge. Our Smuggler's Run Lightning Lane wasn't till a bit later, but again, Eamon really needed a win, and he loves Star Wars, so we just kind of let them wander and explore and shop. They didn't buy anything, but they had fun looking. And then we ended up seeing the Stormtroopers with Kylo Ren. It's sort of like a mini show. And then they also met Luke Skywalker, which was pretty cool. He walked them around a few parts of Galaxy's Edge and was just chit-chatting. So that's a really fun element with the characters that if you catch them at the right time, you can kind of have a walk and talk, and it's very cute. At 4, we scanned in for Smuggler's Run. I did not remember that one very well. Eamon did want to try this one because we told him it might be intense. We explained what it might feel like, but that there's no track. The car isn't going anywhere. It just feels like movement. So my mom gets really motion sick, and we were like, well, maybe this is one she can do. And so I asked the cast member, I don't remember this from last time. Is this good for people who usually get motion sick? And he said, absolutely not. It is all screens. It's a lot of shaking and bouncing and moving. Even people who don't get motion sick sometimes get motion sick on this one. So she sat it out. And let's see, by 4:05, we were on the ride, so maybe 5 minutes. And then I booked a Lightning Lane for Tiana's. Those were getting late. Those were like 8 o'clock also. We ended up not using it, but I had it just in case. Dan and Selah were pilots, Eamon and I were gunners, and my sister Maddie was the engineer. And he loved that one. He did not mind it at all. The movement was not too much for him. I think because he knew we weren't actually going anywhere, that it was just for pretend.
And he isn't going to get motion sick like an adult might.
No, not at all. So he had a great time with that. let's see, we had been eyeing Rise all day because we had agreed that we were not going to buy the single lightning lane pass for it, and that we were going to try to just keep our eye on it and head over there if we saw it drop to 60 or less, because we had done a lot of what we wanted to do already. My kids are not into Jungle Cruise. They're not into Pirates. They're not into Haunted Mansion. So eliminating those 3 headliners makes our day a lot easier. And so Rise had been about 75 to 90 minutes all day. It dropped to 60 at around 4:30, and we got in line then. And we were just kind of, this will be our last thing for today. That's fine. So then we had been in line about 20 minutes when they announced that it had broken down. And we decided to wait 10 or 15 more because we saw lots of people coming out. We were like, well, if it does come back up, we'll make up that time. And if it doesn't, we haven't really lost anything. So we waited 15 minutes and then got out of line. And I was like, do I check the app? Do I see if it came back up 5 minutes after we left? And it was actually down the rest of the day. Even when we got back to the hotel, I checked the app again, still down. So felt good about that decision. We got Dole Whips for a few of us, and then we walked over to Main Street and got ice cream from Gibson Girl for the rest of us. And that was really good ice cream. My sister got pistachio and I got cookies and cream, and they were both incredible. I don't know, I wasn't expecting much, but it was really good. And we just took a good rest, kind of figured out, is there anything else we want to do? At that point, we knew that we were not going to make it to the nighttime show. We had planned to stay, but somewhere around mid-afternoon, I was having trouble staying on my feet. I think I mentioned this in the pre-trip, and I said something in the Facebook group too. I have a lot of foot and ankle problems, and I was worried about just making it through a single day at all. Like, I was really worried that things would lock up and I would not be able to walk any further. And so I was definitely reaching the point where I was like, I don't want to push myself anymore. And so everybody else went shopping on Main Street, and I waited at the front of the park in that little circle area by the train station and just watched Golden Hour on Main Street, which is my favorite time of day. Just with, I mean, the golden hour light on those buildings is so magical. And watching the shadows change and watching people come and go, I just love it. So I sat there for probably 30 minutes while everybody shopped. And I found on my way out of the store a Spirit jersey that I really wanted, which, spoiler alert, I'm now wearing, but I didn't buy it that day. But I just had that in my mind as what I wanted. And then the kids, of course, found giant stuffies that were on clearance. And my mom was like, can I please get these for the kids? She called me while I was sitting there. And I was like, we don't have space to bring these home. Can they be shipped? And they could be shipped, but then the kids were sad because they wanted to snuggle with them all week. I'm like, okay, just buy them. We'll figure it out. There will be a way. So they got those. And then around 6:40, everybody came out and Minnie was there greeting guests. And so they got in line for that. It was maybe 5 minutes and we all met Minnie. That was actually our first photo pass of the day. Besides ride photos, we just didn't really see a lot of photographers around. So then we walked out of the park, and then we walked back into the park. We went through the security, and maybe not security, I don't know. We went through the ticket lane again because I realized I wanted a picture by the train station. And then we really left the park at 6:55. By 7:05, we were on a bus. There was no wait for the bus. And then at 7:17, we were off the bus in the parking lot, and we walked back to our hotel. It took us maybe 15 minutes, going a little bit slow at that time of day. We placed an order for Chipotle that my sister went and picked up for dinner. We were originally planning to get Jolly Holiday, but nobody was hungry after ice cream. We skipped that. The kids ate Easy Mac in the room, and they were asleep around 8:30. I felt really good about skipping the nighttime show. It was also just like really cold by the time we were leaving. Everybody was tired. And I realized if we don't get out of the park until 9:30 or 10, and then they're not asleep until 11, that's going to make rope drop tomorrow really hard. And so I felt really good about skipping the nighttime stuff. We missed a couple of favorite characters, and we ended up not doing our Tiana's Lightning Lane, but nobody noticed. The kids did not ask. Selah didn't even know we had the Tiana's Lightning Lane, but I wanted to avoid it just because it was kind of chilly. And so By the end of that day, we had done 17,265 steps, which is more than I have done in years. Definitely more for my family because I took a lot of rest breaks. So it was not as much as I feared it would be, but still a pretty decent amount of steps. We made it our goal not to crisscross the park. And the only crisscrossing we did was Tomorrowland to Fantasyland. And those are so close together, like so much closer together than at Disney World. And so that felt very easy. And yeah, we all went to bed and we're up early again the next day.
Yeah, I do think it is sometimes a choice between nighttime shows and rope dropping because it's really hard to do them together, especially if you have kids that need to get to bed earlier than the nighttime shows allow.
Yeah.
You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
All right, that was the end of Wednesday, right? So the next day was Thursday, April 3rd, and you went to bed early so you could rope drop California Adventure.
Yes. So we were up again about 5:30. We were down to breakfast at 6:30, and we departed our hotel at 6:55. By 7:15, we were through security and on the shuttles. So we were running like maybe 10 minutes behind where I wanted to be, which was no big deal. Once we got to the DCA gates and they were not quite as busy as Disneyland had been the day before. We were at the gate at 7:27 and then they opened right at 7:30. And by 7:37, we were in like our rope drop area. So there's two ways. We wanted to go to Avengers campus and there's two ways. You can follow the crowd toward Cars Land and come in that way, or you can stay to the left and go around sort of like this, like a Hollywood looking street. And that's where people are going to Guardians generally. So we were in that crowd and we were, again, maybe 3 or 4 rows from the front. We were pretty early, so we all took turns using the bathroom and I booked our first lightning lane for Guardians, which is Tower of Terror basically at Disneyland. Right at 8 a.m., the park opened and they were very serious about having everybody walk. They said it at Disneyland, but I think DCA just gets crazier with people sprinting to rides. And so they were very clear. They were like, we are going to have employees at the front. Nobody walk in front of them. Nobody run. Nobody use the sidewalk. You must stay behind the employees or we will remove you, the rope drop crowd. So we walked very nicely into Avengers campus. Again, everybody peeled left to go to Guardians. And if we had done that, we would have been like the second or third group in line. We were like right there. But instead, we peeled to the right to go to Web Slingers to give Eamon a quick win in the morning. And we parked the stroller and we were the first people in the second group for the day. And that ride was a hit. We all thought it was so fun. The technology that they use it's even like a step above the Toy Story where, the shooter games, because you're just using your hands. And we just had the best time with it. The actor, Tom Holland, they have a recording of him doing the pre-show. And we ended up doing it a second time. And my mom was like, oh man, I can't believe this same guy is here. He must be getting so bored of his job. My sister and I just started dying laughing. We were like, Mom, that's a recording of Tom Holland. And she's, who's Tom Holland? So it's a very realistic projection, I guess. I don't know what it is, but it's great. And so then we walked over to the center area of the park right by Pixar Pier with the big lake and the beautiful view of the Incredicoaster and the Ferris wheel. And we realized the wait times were already insane because at rope drop, every major ride was down except Guardians. So Cars, Toy Story, Midway Mania, Incredicoaster, and Soarin' all down. And so everything just gets backed up. And so let's see, I checked a little bit later at 9 a.m. And at that point, Cars was at 135 minutes. Midway Mania was 65 minutes. Incredicoaster was 55 minutes and Soarin' was 35. Before the trip, when I would check the app just to kind of play around, I never saw Soarin' over 10 minutes before rope drop kind of ended between 9:30 and 10. And so I realized very quickly that today would be a lot of pivoting as well. The original plan was to try to do a bunch of things in Pixar Pier after Web Slingers and then get lightning lanes for everything for the afternoon so we could ride twice. And now I'm like, I just want to get us on these things once, which is fine too. So around 8:35, Toy Story came back up and the line said it was 10 minutes and we were right there. So we jumped in line. We ended up waiting about 20 minutes. And when we boarded, I checked the app again and the wait was already at 65. And that's when I kind of was checking around for everything else and realizing what had happened. So Toy Story was a hit. We just love those arcade game type rides. And we took a bathroom break and had churros. Those are as good as everybody says in Disneyland. My kids loved them. I don't think they've ever had a proper churro. And so we ended up getting more at some point because what we bought was just not enough. Right after that, Bo Peep and Buzz were out meeting people. And so we met them. And then we left Eamon with my mom again. He was very grumpy this day, extremely grumpy. I think even though he was getting a decent amount of sleep, he was really tired and I think overstimulated. And we really laugh about it because this has happened 2 trips in a row where Eamon is, again, he's 5. He has always been a really good-natured kid. He's super flexible. He's happy all the time. Not so much anymore. He's going through a thing, but he's just like very much a go with the flow person, like my husband. And the last 2 trips, he is like his worst self in the Disney parks. And we don't totally know why. And then my daughter, who really struggles with flexibility and adaptability, she's more like me. When the plans change, she has a really hard time. She's very prone to meltdowns because of like overstimulation and some of like her neurodivergent stuff. And she is her very best self in Disney parks. She's flexible. She's going with the flow. She's sure we can do that. Sure, we can change the plan. All smiles, just having the time of her life. And so we don't know why it brings out the worst in like our flexible child and the best in our inflexible child, but it just is.
Yeah,
So
it's super interesting. I know a lot of neurodivergent people thrive in the parks, and I think that's
yeah,
an interesting thing in itself. I'm curious
totally.
why that is in general.
Right. And that's me too. I have OCD and anxiety like my daughter, and I get very overstimulated. And Disney is my happiest place, even though it's very overstimulating. And there were plenty of times I had to tell my family, I get really overwhelmed by noise and then questions layered on top of noise. And of course, I'm fielding a lot of questions because I'm the person with all the knowledge. And so everybody's asking, what's next? Why this? Why that? Where's that? What time is lunch? What time is this? What time is that? And I had to really check myself to try to see that coming and say, the question shop is closed for right now. I can't do questions. I'm really overwhelmed. I think I snapped maybe once on the first day. And when we were in line for DCA the second day, my daughter, again, very perceptive kid, is like, Mommy, if you need a break from questions, what do I do? And I was like, well, I don't want to ask. Oh, that's what she said. I'm afraid to ask you questions today because I know you got overwhelmed yesterday. And I was like, it's your job to ask questions and have fun. Like those are your only jobs on this trip. And I was like, it's my job to know when I'm overwhelmed by questions, so I can tell you in advance, I need 5 minutes without questions. And then your job is to respect that. And she was like, okay, well, my job sounds better than yours, so that's fine. So sorry, that was a big tangent, but that's just kind of how it goes in parks. So Eamon was grumpy to be left with my mom. She was going to have him do the carousel, but they don't let kids ride that by themselves, even if they're tall enough, and she can't do anything that spins. So they just kind of wandered around the Pixar area. We scanned in for Guardians at 9:20 and went straight into the pre-show, but then the wait is real, it was long after that. It takes forever, it feels, to get loaded into the ride vehicles. So we were on the ride vehicle around 9:45. While I was in line, I booked a lightning lane to do Toy Story again for the second time later that day, but it was much later. I don't remember what time. So then up until we boarded the ride vehicle, my daughter was all about it. She wanted to do it so badly, but then she started to panic. She got a little bit scared of some of the theming inside. And then I've never done a dropping ride. I don't know if I want to do this. Do you think I should do it? Do you think I can do it? And she didn't decide until we were boarding. She's just, okay, I'm getting on. And I'm watching her the whole time we're doing it because Tower of Terror is my favorite ride. Guardians was really fun. I prefer Tower of Terror, but it was really fun. Just theming wise, I think it's more fun.
How did she do then?
She ended up liking it. I looked over at her a couple times. I was holding her hand. I was trying to warn her whenever I thought a drop was coming, but they're random, so you don't always know. And I just couldn't get a good read on her, but she wasn't crying. And then when we stopped, I was like, what did you think? And she goes, I liked it. It kind of hurt, but I liked it. And I was like, do you think you want to do it again? And she's, oh, yeah. And I said, I meant probably not today. The lines are long. She's, oh, not today. I'll do it on our next trip.
Okay, in the future.
Yes, in the future. So then we met Star-Lord right outside the ride. And I said to my husband, I was like, should we even take a picture? Eamon's going to be really sad that he missed it. And he's, but I want to be in the picture. So got a picture, and we didn't tell Eamon. We met up with them. I decided to modify the Toy Story lightning lane to an immediate return time for Ariel. We tend to be more lightning lane churners than stackers. And so I found myself doing that a lot, modifying to something that was immediate, as long as I knew we were either okay skipping whatever I was modifying, or I felt confident we could get a time after that. So the posted wait time for Ariel was about 20 minutes. We walked on with the lightning lane, and then I booked our next one for Incredicoaster. They liked Ariel. I think it's basically the same. I don't think there's actually differences.
It is the same. It's just the queue is not as good out there.
Yeah, which was fine because we just walked the 2 minutes to the front and we were on. So then we took a little break, got a cookie butter cold brew from Aunt Cass at San Francisco Square, and that was as wonderful as it sounds. It was not cloyingly sweet, which was really nice because I don't like super sweet coffee. I think it tasted more like they brew the coffee with the flavor rather than adding tons of syrup pumps. So it still had a good coffee kick to it, and it was had some nice crunchy cookies in it. We took a bunch of pictures in that area in front of Pixar Pier and the Ferris wheel, still trying to make a new plan for what we're going to do. So we headed back to Pixar Pier. My husband got in line with the kids for Jesse's Critter Carousel at 10:58, and they waited about 10 minutes for that. And then they met Mrs. Incredible after I was sitting and taking a break. Then again, we left Eamon with my mom, and he was not happy, but we got him some cotton candy, and he ended up being fine watching. They were just watching the Incredicoaster take off by the water. And so we got in line. Let's see, we scanned in for Incredicoaster at 11:25, and we were on the ride at 11:35. That was another one. My daughter had never done an upside down coaster before. And we kept trying to tell her, going upside down doesn't really feel like anything. It doesn't feel like your stomach is dropping. If you did Guardians, you can definitely do this. And so she hesitantly got on again and just loved it. It was her favorite ride of the whole trip.
That's an intense one. Like,
It is.
I mean,
It's
upside down,
long.
lots of drops. Yes, it's long, but I guess the benefit for her is she can see it all.
Yes.
So you kind of know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no random dropping, but there are like 3 good launch points where you kind of stop and then go again. And every time I thought it was over, it wasn't over. So we all really liked it and are very glad that Eamon didn't go because he would have hated it.
Yeah, that would be really intense for him.
Yeah. Yeah. So while we were in line, I got that lightning lane back for Toy Story Midway Mania. And then the kids met Sadness, which was really cute. They love Sadness. We didn't end up meeting Joy, but Sadness
It
was
makes
still fun.
for someone as sensitive as your daughter, it feels like she would feel sad by meeting Sadness.
Yeah,
You know, because she really does give the sad.
she does. Yeah. But she was all smiles because Sadness put a little teardrop by her signature in the autograph book. And she thought that was very fun. I had to tell them, make sad faces in the picture, but they're both like smiling sad. So then we like sort of kind of refilled our popcorn buckets. We had bought popcorn buckets the day before, just like the standard, like Disneyland ones, not like anything specialty. And they were, I think, like $14 or $16. And they told us when we bought them, there's no free refills. You just pay $6 for, that's like a standard popcorn. You just pay the $6 for a refill. And we were like, that's fine. So then we get in line with our popcorn buckets and they're like, well, we don't refill popcorn buckets at all. They just gave us the paper carton of popcorn. I was like, okay, I guess we didn't need these, but whatever. So we just poured the popcorn into the buckets. And
yeah, they're basically telling you can pay $6 for the paper version and dump it in yourself.
yeah, exactly. So I probably wouldn't have bought the buckets if I had realized that, but what does it matter? I was going to pay $6 anyway. So it was just a little annoying to carry them around, but we did have a stroller. My kids used it for maybe 5 minutes total, but it held all our stuff. I had big hooks on it for the water bottles, for the popcorn buckets. We stashed our bags in it. There was only one moment where we actually worried about it, because I've never worried about my stroller in a Disney park. When we were in Galaxy's Edge the day before, we had left it for well over an hour. And when Dan went to get it, he was like, it's gone. It's not here. And I was like, are you sure you checked really hard in the spot where you think you left it? And I definitely did. And then he did another lap. It still wasn't there. So then a cast member saw him and he must have looked panicked because they were like, like 30 minutes ago, we moved all these strollers over here, like other side of Galaxy's Edge. We would have had no way of locating it. And we should have had air tags on it or something. We didn't. So it was a big relief when we did find it. But I know sometimes the cast members move strollers, but they had just moved it really far.
And it seems like if they're going to do that, they should be there to alert you, because how would you know?
Right. Yeah, we had no idea. And it was 30 minutes later. So that cast member wasn't even around. So it was a relief to find it for sure. We didn't leave anything valuable in there, but all our sunscreen, all the water bottles, this and that. So it was fine. So then at 11:55, the kids and Dan got in line for Emotional Whirlwind. I took a break. I was really struggling this day. I thought, having never been there, I was like, oh, DCA looks smaller. We'll probably do less steps. And that was not the case. At this point, we had done more steps by 12 than we had like by 2 or 3 the day before. And I'm really not sure why. It didn't feel like we were crisscrossing a lot, but I guess we kind of were. Well, they waited about 20 minutes for Emotional Whirlwind and then got in line for Jumping Jellyfish. That was posted at 10. I think they waited 5. And at that point, I modified the Toy Story Lightning Lane to Web Slingers because that one was booking out into the afternoon. I didn't think everybody was going to want to walk back over to Pixar Pier again a few hours later, and the kids said that they would rather do Web Slingers twice than Toy Story twice. So then at 12:40, we got in line for Golden Zephyr. Again, we had lunch at 1 this day, and it was a posted 20-minute wait. So I was like, we're pushing it, but I'm sure they'll be gracious with us for lunch. And we ended up only waiting like 13 minutes. So we got off and headed straight to Lamplight Lounge, where we had a 1 o'clock reservation. At 1:15, they brought us to a table, which was actually outside, and it was very cold and windy, and there weren't really enough space heaters. And there's also no Pixar theming outside. You have a beautiful view of the water, but like the atmosphere that I was hoping for was not out there. And then they said, actually, your table's not ready, sorry. And they brought us back to the waiting area. So I took that opportunity to say, we don't mind waiting a little longer if it means being seated inside. I know that they're so busy and juggling so many things. So of course I'm nice about it. And if it's not possible, I understand.
Mhm.
We are willing to wait if we can sit inside. And so they did seat us inside around 1:30. It's at that point that I realized I had completely forgotten about the virtual queue for World of Color. I meant to set my alarm. It just completely slipped my mind. And I was disappointed at first, but everybody was fine with it. And it ended up being, again, a good decision. I still kind of wish we had seen it, but by the time I think we left the park around 8 o'clock this day, and we were freezing. And we did not have, we all had sweatshirts and pants on, but we didn't have layers beyond that. And so I just can't imagine having sat there for basically another hour and a half after that in the cold, because it was probably 50, 55 and totally dark. So I guess my advice, if anybody is going to stay, is have a jacket or be willing to buy a jacket or bring some hand warmers or something to stay warm, because it gets chilly in California at night.
I think I told you before your trip, hey, they have a lightning lane for World of Color. And then while you were there, I was like, no, it's a virtual queue. I shouldn't
Oh.
have said lightning lane.
No, that's fine. I figured it out as soon as I looked it up in the app. I was like, oh, she meant virtual queue. It was
I
fine.
totally did. But I think they have had a fast pass lightning lane thing in the past.
Right.
And
That
now it's
stuff
a
is
virtual.
always changing.
Now it's a virtual queue.
Yeah. So it was fine that I missed it. Nobody was sad. Let's see. At Lamplight Lounge, we thought it was really cute. We thought it was, the kids really liked all the Pixar stuff on the walls. And Dan and I shared the Vietnamese pork chop with barbecue sauce, which was really, the pork was delicious. The sauce was really sweet. I think it might have been like cherry or something. It was really good. There were also garlic noodles, which were amazing. And then either like cucumber or zucchini. My mom and sister shared the same thing and they loved it. And the kids split the mac and cheese with fries. They rejected both and thought the mac and cheese looked weird. They thought the fries tasted weird. And I tried the fries and they were amazing, but they were very heavy with garlic and Parmesan, which the kids did not like at first. Then they came around and finished all their food and ended up loving it. They said they were the best mac and cheese and fries they've ever had.
They were just different.
They were just different. And we tried to regroup again, kind of rewrite the plan, figure out what we were going to do for the afternoon, because again, things were just not going the way we thought they would. So we decided to head over to the Avengers campus because it looked like there were a bunch of characters set to come out. And it was at that point that I remembered we wanted to see the Spider-Man stunt. So at 2:30, the kids got in line to meet Spider-Man. At 2:45, a cast member asked my husband to take the kids out of line, and I was off taking a break. So I was like, what is going on? So they allowed one person from each party to stay in line to hold the spot because they had been waiting for a while. And then Spider-Man did the stunt show. We all watched that, and then the kids were allowed to get back in line with their adult. So then they met Spider-Man. And they thought he was very cool. He signs autographs with a spider. And then at 3, Iron Man was scheduled to come out. So we walked over to that area and didn't see anything. And so I asked a cast member, because I know the schedules change. I'm like, is Iron Man maybe not coming out today? And he said, he might not. We don't know. Maybe just linger. And so we lingered. Black Panther was doing like a little show. So we watched that. And then I saw a photographer come out and I was like, go. And we got in line right as Iron Man came out. And then there were suddenly like 15 families behind us. So the kids really thought Iron Man was very cool. We got some good PhotoPass pictures from that one. And then at 3:15, there were a couple rides the kids still wanted to do back around the far side of Pixar Pier. And I did not have it in me to walk that far. So Dan and my mom took the kids over there to do the swings and one other ride. Oh, they were also going to maybe wait for the Ferris wheel. I was disappointed. I don't like Ferris wheels at all, but I wanted to ride this one because it's iconic. And I was just like, I can't walk around to the far side of the park again. So they ended up not riding it because the wait for both the swinging and non-swinging cars was bouncing between 45 and 60, and nobody thought it was worth it. They were over there for maybe 45 minutes doing some rides, and my sister and I went to San Francisco Square, which was so busy, but there were a ton of tables. So we were able to find one as somebody was getting up. And we shared a frozen lime margarita with a tahini rim from Rita's Turbine Blenders. And again, I didn't have high hopes for it. You know, it's a pre-blended margarita that they pour out of a machine, but it was really good. Maybe it was just like exactly what I needed, but it was not super sweet. The tahini made it a little spicy, and it was perfect. And so we got to have a little sister chit chat time. While we were sitting there, I got a lightning lane for Monsters for that night. And then Dan, let's see. Oh, I said that part, that they did the swings and one other ride. So at this point, I had also, maybe during, I don't remember when I got it, but I had a lightning lane for Soarin' that was scheduled for 5:45. And originally we had said, we'll just go out of the park that way so that I'm not having to crisscross a ton. But it was clear we wouldn't be out of the park by the end of that lightning lane period. And I wasn't sure if Disneyland works the same as Disney World, where you can scan in after. And I was too scared to try it. I wasn't sure what the grace period was. So I kept refreshing. And I finally got one to pop up for 4:25. So we walked over to Soarin', scanned in at 4:25, and we're on the ride at 4:42. And this month for Food and Wine, I think that's what they call it there too. It's Soarin' over California, which was really cool. We've done Soarin' around the world a few times, but this one was really special. And I also felt like we didn't wait for the row B1 seats or whatever, but I felt like even from we were on the bottom, I didn't feel like the screen was quite as distorted, maybe because there's not so many like tall landmarks, but I felt like every seat was a good seat for that one. And Selah just thought it was the most magical thing because they pump in the smells. You know, you smell the pine trees, you smell the snow, you smell the water. And she was just like, how do they do that? How do they make it smell like that? And Eamon's on my other side being grumpy. He's got his arms crossed. This is boring. This is boring. And then he realized he could safely hang over, not like hang over the front of the seat, but look over the front of the seat and feel like he was zooming by. And then he was all smiles. He thought it was very cool. So after that, we went shopping. I found a mug and a Christmas ornament for our family. The mug is mine. The ornament is for all of us. And the kids walked over to the toy store. And then I went over to one of the connecting shops to look at the Spirit jerseys. I could not decide on a size. And so then I got scared of the price tag and buying the wrong size because we're really not really merch people. My husband is especially not a merch person because he's much more frugal than I am. And so I was like, I can't pull the trigger on a Spirit jersey. I'll show the video watchers, it has like sequins on the back. So it's a higher price point than the other ones. And so I was like, I'm not going to do it. The kids didn't buy anything, but they looked. And then my mom got one of those little shoulder pets that have the magnet for her other granddaughter, my niece, Coco. And it's this like cute little colorful dog. And then she was like, what movie is this from? And I was like, it's from Coco. So that's fun. She didn't even realize it was the same name. So we didn't buy anything else. We were just gathering data for what we might want to buy another time. Let's see. At 6 p.m., we scanned in for our lightning lane to Web Slingers. And then while we were in line, I mobile ordered dinner from Pim Test Kitchen. The ride stopped for about 20 minutes when we were near the front. And we don't know why, but I saw people walking around on the track. So I think maybe somebody dropped something on the track and then they have to shut everything down. So then the ride vehicles started moving again, but then they weren't working. So they had to empty out every ride vehicle and send it around once empty. They said they were rebooting the vehicles. So I was like, how long do we wait it out? What if it doesn't come back up? but it did. So we all just sat on the floor and played. We played a lot of heads up in line. I don't know if a lot of people were playing that, so it's probably pretty commonly known, but my kids thought it was really fun. They were just begging to play every time we stopped for even 5 minutes. So at 6:30, we were on the ride. It was just as fun as the first time, but my husband was pushing us to get a really high family score. So we had to be more strategic this time, and we were successful. So I changed our mobile order window once for Pim, and then we picked it up at 6:50. I was really excited for that because it looked so cool and cute, and then it was a little underwhelming inside, which is fine. We just sat outside. We split the pretzel, the pepper particle pasta, and the not so little chicken sandwich. And I thought the food was just okay. We were really hungry. So it wasn't bad. The pretzel was really good, but I'm not dying to go there again on our next trip. The kids got the peanut butter and jelly flavor lab, which is also a build your own PB&J. So they were excited, but then they both got really disappointed because it didn't look like the build your own from the day before. And the bread was kind of weird. It's these little thin pieces of bread, and then they have this little red swirl. And especially Eamon was really mad about the bread. So, and then they gave the kids 3 little things of bread that are this big, less than the size of an index card, probably half the size of an index card. And then this monster portion of peanut butter. So they used, I don't know, an eighth of it. And then the grown-ups ate the rest of the peanut butter because we were so hungry.
Yeah, I needed more bread or something.
We did. Yeah, they needed double the bread. And then my daughter got really upset because they only gave 3 slices of bread. So she was like, so I can't even make 2 sandwiches. I can only make 1 sandwich, and then I have to have an open piece of bread. That's okay. She just wasn't having it at that time of day. So at 7:30, my sister left. She had to go home and walk her roommate's dogs because they had left earlier that day. And then at 7:36, we scanned in for our last lightning lane for Monsters, Inc. And again, we were very glad not to be staying at that point because it was quite cold. At 8:11, we enjoyed Monsters, Inc. It wasn't anything super special, but it was a fun last little ride, and we thought it was cute. So at 8:11, we got in line for the bus. The day before that, again at 7, we had left at an hour earlier at 7, and there was no line for the bus. But by 8, there were 3 really long lines for the bus. They had people waiting in 3 different bays. So we didn't get on. I think we waited 20 or 25 minutes for a bus, and I realized too late that we could have just walked to the hotel at that point because it's a 20-minute walk, and then we still had to walk back from the Toy Story parking lot, but it is what it is. As soon as we left the park, I just instantly started crying because I couldn't believe it was already over so fast. And then my son saw me crying, and he burst into tears, just starts sobbing. And I'm like, you were grumpy all day, and now you're sad that it's over. But he did end up having a lot of fun, and he brought back a lot of core memories. So we cried our way back to the hotel. The kids were asleep at 9:30, and I think the grown-ups were out shortly after that. And so I guess overall impressions of California Adventure, I had been so excited going into this day because even though the front of the park is very akin to Hollywood Studios, to me, nothing else about the park feels like Hollywood Studios. It's very much its own thing. I had never been in a Disney park like this one. And so I really liked it. I thought it was super fun. I would definitely go back, but it just didn't give me the same magical vibes as all the other parks. And I'm not totally sure why. It felt more like Universal to me, actually. Really great theming, beautiful, fun rides, but I don't know. It didn't feel like Disney to me. But I'm not mad at it either. We had a great time. And like I said, I would totally go back. Maybe I need to go again for it to feel like part of Disney.
I think the 2 parks are very different vibes. And so a lot of families tend to go to Disneyland, and a lot of adults, especially ones that like to drink, tend to go to California Adventure. And so it's kind of very different.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. It also felt it was hard to navigate because it was so busy and the headliners being down just discombobulated everybody from the beginning. But the vibe of the park was very laid back, especially back in the San Francisco Square and Pixar Pier. Like, people are just hanging out. There's clearly a ton of locals there. And you can just tell by the way people are dressed who has a magic key and lives in the area and who is here visiting from a long way away. But it did. It felt very chill, very low key. And my sister said, yeah, a lot of people just come here for a few hours and hang out. So you can definitely sense that.
Hey, friend, I know how it feels, waking up exhausted after multiple trips to the bathroom and feeling embarrassed by sudden leaks. I used to be constantly on edge, searching for a restroom whenever I was out. Then I discovered Better Woman. I was skeptical at first, but 2 months in, everything changed. I experienced improved bladder control, no more heart-stopping moments when I laugh or sneeze, less urge to go, deeper and more restful sleep. I finally felt like myself again, confident and in control. Better Woman is natural, effective, and trusted by women for over 25 years. Ready to take back your control? Head over to BeBetterNow.com to order your supply today. That's BeBetterNow.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Use as directed. Individual results may vary.
Definitely. But
Yeah.
your trip wasn't over because
It was
there's
not
some
over.
non-park days coming up. And I'm
Yes.
hoping a little break from all the steps for you, maybe.
Yes.
Friday,
So by
April
the
4th.
end of this, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say Friday, April 4th, you're picking up a rental car so that you could go to a beach.
Yes. Up doing a little over 18,000 steps that day. So not less like I had thought. My family definitely did more because I took a lot of breaks. So yes, we picked up the rental car. We all had breakfast, got ready, and my husband picked up the rental car around 9:30. He had booked it through the Capital One portal using a travel credit for Sixt over on Catella. So he walked there. It took him maybe 10 or 15 minutes. He said it was one of his favorite moments of the trip because the streets are gorgeous there. They're just like lined with palm trees. It was a gorgeous sunny morning. It was much warmer that day. Or no, not yet. It was not warmer, but it was sunny. And I think he just really liked having that quiet moment to himself to take it all in. He ended up having a great time at the parks. Like early the first day at Disneyland, he's, yes, we're definitely doing this again. And he's the reluctant Disney person. So I think just everything was so easy, especially like the hotel we stayed at, everything was just easy and he had a great time. And so he's very excited to go back. So let's see, the car wasn't ready when he got there. The person before us had just dropped it off, so they hadn't cleaned it yet. And we were definitely on a timeline to get out to Newport Beach because it can be a long drive in traffic. So he ended up taking the car just as it was, and they were going to give him a discount. But then because we used the Capital One portal, they couldn't apply a discount, but it was not a big deal. It was not expensive. And so it was just kind of whatever. So he got back to the hotel. Oh, this was a GMC Acadia, so it fit all of us easily and all the car seats. We left for Newport Beach at 10:30. We were hoping to get there around 11, and it took us only 35 minutes. It could have taken up to an hour in traffic, so that was good. Parking there is difficult. There's a couple lots, but a lot of them have time limits, and we were going to be out on a boat, so we couldn't move it. So we drove around for 5 or 10 minutes and found street parking. And then you just have to be careful of signs for anyone that travels there. You have to be careful of the street sweeping signs and the permit signs. You have to park in a place where it's not residential permits. So then we had about a 10-minute walk to the location for whale watching, and it's just gorgeous. There's this waterfront sidewalk along the marina there because it's a little peninsula. If people have ever seen Arrested Development, this is sort of where that show is based. It's like the Balboa Peninsula in Newport Beach. And so there's all these beautiful homes along the waterfront, and then there's a sidewalk between the homes and the boats. And so it was like a 10-minute walk along this beautiful area. We got checked in around 11:15 and got in line for the boat, which was going to board at about 11:50. And so we split up. There's a lot of food and shopping in that area. So my mom stayed with the kids and we went to get food to bring back to the boat because they let you bring food on. We got mashed potato tacos and coffee and donuts.
Wait, what's a mashed potato taco?
Okay, so there's this shop called Chronic Tacos right by the harbor. And it's like deep fried tortillas with mashed potatoes. And then I added carne asada and then just like onion, cilantro, whatnot. But they're so good. They were so good.
Nice.
So that was very enjoyable. So we got on the boat at about 11:55. It was very chilly. I had done this same company, same boat tour with my mom and sister the previous fall, and it was just a different boat. There was a ton of seating in the back before where it was just open sun. So even though it was cold, it was sunny. On this boat, there was just one big outer rim of bench seating, and it was all shaded. So it was quite cold. I wish we had an extra layer. But we were up and down a lot. And so this is a 2-hour whale watching tour through Davy's Locker. And last time I did it, we saw a ton of dolphins, but no whales. And this time we saw a baby humpback. We spent a lot of time watching him because he was being very playful. He had this rope of kelp and she said he was using it to like scrub barnacles off his back. But he would put his fins out of the water, put his tail up, do some diving. And the kids were just astonished by that. It was really cool to see. We saw a glimpse of a fin whale that they tried to chase, but we couldn't find it again. And then I think they kept us out a little bit past our tour time because I think they wanted us to at least get a glimpse of the dolphins. So we ended up seeing dolphins right at the end, just for a minute. They were bouncing around outside the boat. And my daughter was delighted because she just loves dolphins. And they're so cool to see. They come right up to the boat because they keep their distance from the whales, but they go right up to the dolphins because the dolphins like to play in the wake, which is really fun. And there was a man on board. He's a naturalist. His name is Larry. And he was on our tour back in October too. Just such a nice guy, very informative, loves to answer questions. And so my kids spent a lot of time talking with him and asking him questions. And it's well worth the money. So if anybody wants to do it, if you go on their website, it's expensive. It's $38.50 for kids and $44.50 for adults, plus a 4% processing fee, and then an additional $10 per person if your sailing is between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. on a weekday, which is most of them.
That is a lot of different things to add up.
Yes. So there's a tour at 9:30 outside that window and a tour at 5:30 outside that window. But both times, I think they just have a perpetual deal going on Travelzoo. So if you're on Travelzoo, you can book the tickets for $16 a person. And then I had a discount code from the last time. So you take your Travelzoo voucher, put it into the Davy's Locker website, and that's when they charge you the $10 fee to book it. But my discount code wiped out the fee. So we ended up paying just $16 a person for this 2.5 hour tour because they kept us out late. So it was totally worth it. And we rented 2 pairs of binoculars that were $5 each. So highly recommend it. The company is amazing. We've been so happy with them, and I would definitely do it again. Mm-hmm. From there, we just walked around the boardwalk. We did an arcade for a little while. They have some little rinky-dink rides, like a teeny tiny Ferris wheel and like a teeny tiny like dropping ride. And of course, the kids wanted to do it. I'm like, we've been in Disneyland for 2 days. We're not paying. It was like $10 per ride. We were like, we're not doing this. So we had some pizza, got some coffee. The kids ate rainbow ice cream cones. And then at 3:30, we headed back to the hotel. This time it took us 60 minutes. We rested for a bit in the hotel and then freshened up. And we left at 5:30 for dinner in the Anaheim downtown area. There's this really cool place called the Anaheim Packing House, which is just a huge food hall with all these amazing restaurants that have like satellite locations at the food hall. And you just grab your food and find communal tables. That's what I wanted to do because I had done that with my sister in October and I wanted to go back. We had some family in the area who wanted to meet us for dinner, and that just felt like it wasn't the right vibe for visiting with family. So they were driving from Simi Valley and it took them like 2 hours to get to Anaheim. So I was really glad we chose a less chaotic dinner. So we went to Craft by Smoke and Fire, which is amazing barbecue food. I did not expect such good barbecue in Anaheim, but it was incredible. And so we all had beer. They brought it in from Villains Brewing. The server sent us apps on the house. He sent us a brisket quesadilla and brisket barbecue nachos. My mom and sister got brisket sandwiches, and then the rest of us split their smallest platter. It was $126 and it serves 4 to 6 people. We had 5 and my husband can eat enough for 2.5 and we still had food left over. So it was like brisket, lamb rack, short ribs, turkey, sausage, a bunch of sides. And it was incredible. So we had fun visiting with family. It was Dan's aunt, uncle, and cousin. And then we headed back to the hotel. We did the hot tub finally for 15 minutes, and then the kids were tired, and we went to sleep at 9.
In the pre-trip, you had mentioned the possibility of going to Crystal Cove State Park. So at some point, did you
Yes.
scratch that?
We did, yeah. By the time we had gotten some food and walked around a little bit at the boardwalk, and then our dinner plans had changed to be a little bit earlier, I had also considered, this will come up tomorrow. I had also booked a reservation for Centrico in downtown Disney for that night. They couldn't increase the party to 9 people. So yeah, we just weren't sure what we were going to do and how late, but we were all really tired. Our feet were worn out. We did not want to go walk around a state park. Plus it took us 30 minutes out of the way and traffic was already really bad getting back. So we just kind of scrapped it and hung around the beach, the boardwalk a little longer. But the next morning, so now we're on Saturday, April 5th. I woke up panicked at 6:30 in the morning because I had forgotten to cancel Centrico for the night before. And Disney charges you $10 a person for a no-show. And I just felt so stupid. And I couldn't believe I had forgotten that. I checked my bank account. There was no charge yet, but I know it can take 24 hours. Fortunately, after 24 hours passed, they still had not charged me the no-show fee. So I don't know if it was Disney magic. I don't know if they maybe don't do that for your first offense, but we made it out of that one. But then
in the pre-trip, you mentioned Centrico's on Sunday, not on Friday. So did you
I
have
made a
both?
bunch of reservations because I didn't know when we would get over there.
Okay.
So I meant to cancel Friday and I didn't. I did still have our Sunday reservation, which we later canceled. We never made it. I was also panicked at this point about how we're going to get all the souvenirs back because we just didn't have extra space and we were bringing extra luggage back for my sister. So I ended up placing an Amazon order for a super cheap foldable duffel, and we put all the dirty laundry in that. And then everybody had enough room in their suitcases to pack one stuffy because we ended up with 3 really big ones. I also had to call American Airlines to confirm that I would get free bags because I'm supposed to get 4 free bags for being a card holder, and it didn't work on the way here. So I called to confirm that it would work on the way back because I didn't want to pay $40 a bag for 4 bags. And they assured me it would be fine. So then everybody else woke up and we had breakfast, and we had plans that day just to hang out with my sister who lives in Fullerton. So we ended up doing mini golf at Camelot Golfland in Anaheim. We mini golfed for about 2 hours and it was really fun. It was hot though. It was like 85 and sunny, which feels really different from 65 and sunny. We were just roasting in the California sun, but it was also it was gorgeous. I have 0 complaints about the weather. At about 1:30, we headed back to my sister's apartment, and on the way, we got Kamari Yemeni coffee. And we thought it was a single location in Anaheim, but it turns out they're everywhere. And there's actually 2 locations near me. One of them is near my daughter's dance studio, so I will be back. We got an iced pistachio latte, pistachio milk cake, and pistachio cheesecake. And they were all unbelievable. So even if you're not in the Anaheim area, check your local area if you have a Kamari.
Lots of good pistachio
They're
stuff.
so good. So good. So we just had a really chill day hanging at my sister's apartment. The kids watched Bluey. The adults all fell asleep on the couch. And then about 4:45, we walked over to Pour Company, which is the restaurant my sister works at. Fullerton itself is just a very cute little town. There's a couple colleges in the area. It has very much like a college town and also family vibe. There's a lot of coffee shops, treats, good shopping. And so at her restaurant, it's like a covered outdoor area. We got some IPAs. My sister got a spicy margarita and Dan got an old fashioned. And then we just ordered a bunch of their shareables because they're pretty, like their shareables are special. Otherwise, they have like burgers and sandwiches and stuff. But they have a lot of things that feel particular to their restaurant and the California area. Because I feel like every restaurant I've been to in California has a spin on Brussels sprouts. And I don't usually like them, but I love the way they do it. So they have these fried Brussels sprouts that have these crispy sushi rice squares and then like a sweet chili sauce. We got pork belly fried rice, beef bulgogi, is that how you say it? Bulgogi fries, and a hot pepperoni pizza. And everything was incredible. And we were not full enough yet. So we got milk and cookies, which is the name of the place. And they do warm cookies of your choice with an ice cream scoop of your choice. And everything there was amazing too. And then, yeah, we walked back to my sister's apartment. We put our feet in the hot tub for a few minutes, went back to the hotel, and the kids went to sleep and the grownups packed up the room because it was a big project.
Yes, you had to pack because the next day was your departure day in the
Yes.
afternoon, but did you fit anything in before you left?
We did, yeah. We got up semi-early because we wanted to pack everything up and be at downtown Disney by 9:30 or so. So we parked at 9:45. We were through security at 10. And at that point, I had already canceled our 11 o'clock lunch for Centrico because we decided to just really fill up on breakfast and then get food at the airport because our flight was at 3:25, but we weren't going to land until 9:30. So we were like, we need to get the kids dinner as close to our flight time as we can. So we just walked around and shopped. We popped into a bunch of the new stores. Last time I was there, they had a lot of the construction walls up, but the new stores were open. We visited the wonderful World of Sweets. We didn't buy anything, but it was very cute. They had a lot of they pump the sugar smell outside to lure you in. We spent a lot of time in World of Disney. My kids still had some souvenir spending money. And then I ended up caving and buying the Spirit jersey that I now wear and have worn every day since we got home. I wanted one since 2021, so I finally pulled the trigger because I'm like, I'm not going home sad after a second trip that I don't have one. So now I have one. Ayla found some Mickey macaron necklaces, like a BFF set to give to her friends back home, and she bought some Mickey hairbands. Eamon didn't find anything in World of Disney. So then I went to Starbucks. Everybody else went to Star Wars Trading Post, and I just had a few minutes to myself. Finally, Eamon picked out a lightsaber, like the cheap ones that fold up so we could pack it, not like the intense ones that you have to ship. And then he also picked out a Darth Vader voice changing mask. That one we did have shipped home because there was no way we were fitting it into the luggage at that point. But it was only $8 for shipping, which they could charge a lot more. And they don't. They also told us, I don't know if this is true at Disney World, they ship based on the value of the item, not by size and weight. And there's a $40 max. So they told us anything you want to ship, save it and ship it all together so that you're not overpaying. I meant to have a couple things shipped, but I left them in the car. So I had to find places for them in my luggage, but it all worked out. So there was no rental car drop off at the airport. So we had to drop it off in Anaheim where we picked it up and then call a Lyft XL from the rental car place. So that happened around 1. We got to the airport at 1:20 for our 3:20 flight. We didn't have any issues, again, getting all our bags and now our extra bags into the Lyft XL. It was tight, but it was fine. So then there was a snafu at the airport where I accidentally checked too many bags. So I tried to cancel out of it before my card got charged, but it was too late. But because I canceled, my tags didn't print. So I had to go to the counter, There was no wait. Like, it's such a low-key airport. The representative was so nice. She tried to get me a refund for my bags, but she couldn't. So she said that she would, because I also showed her my card, and I was like, I think I'm not supposed to be charged for the bags, but I was, and I don't know what to do. And so she figured out that my American number was not connected to my credit card. And that was the issue. So she connected it. She made a note in my account that I would be seeking a refund online and told me all the steps for getting the baggage charges refunded. So then she printed me new tags, and everybody else is just waiting outside because it's a beautiful day. So we still got through security pretty quickly, but at that point it was 2:15 and we were boarding at 2:45. So we had to grab whatever we could find for food and eat it as fast as we can because we don't like getting on the plane with food. So then we got, I would say like 80% of the flight was boarded by the time we got to the airplane door, and they stopped us and they said, please wait here. My heart sank. And they said, actually, this flight is delayed. We need you to go back out to the waiting area. And we had to play like a game of telephone to tell everybody else to turn around. And we were the only ones that had the benefit of talking to the pilot. So everybody, I don't know if people believed us, but they were like, we have to deplane every passenger on this flight. They had also announced before we got on that the flight was weight restricted because John Wayne has a very short runway. And when it's too warm, they have to decrease the amount of weight on flights. So they had to rebook 20 people and their bags, or we would not be able to leave. So they started boarding anyway as they're rebooking people, but then they told us everybody has to get off the plane. The plane was still too heavy. So they had to rebook more people, and then they switched planes. They had the planes stay where they are, but they had all the Dallas passengers come to our plane because there were less people booked for that one. So they put them on the bigger plane. And then they took all of us to the plane, the smaller plane that was going to Dallas. And they kicked a bunch of people off our flight so that we would have a low enough weight to take off safely. And I was just mystified by the whole thing because I'm sure this is not their first rodeo. And I was like, how did nobody know this was coming? How did you sell a flight with 30 extra people knowing that it was going to be warm that day? I mean, I guess they don't know that when they're selling the flights months in advance, but it seems like it would be a pretty common problem.
Yeah, it makes me want to, I need to go Google this. Temperatures, plane, weight, runway.
I had never heard that one before, but I've only ever really flown out of O'Hare where
it's huge.
The runways are enormous, so we don't have that problem. So we ended up getting more food because we had time. We got the kids ice cream cones. They didn't care about the delay, but I'm like looking at my watch, like knowing how late we're going to get home now. So all said, the delay was a little over an hour. We boarded a new plane at 4. We took off at 4:45, which I guess that's about an hour and a half late. Then about 15 minutes into the flight, they announced, because we were trying to get everybody out as quickly as possible, the catering cart didn't make it onto the plane. So there are no snacks, but there were drinks. That was good. It also just brought up a lot of really unpleasant memories for me because the last time we flew home from Disney World, we also had a flight delay. We all sat on the very hot airplane for over an hour before it took off. But it was late. It was probably already 7 o'clock at that point, and my kids were a lot younger. My daughter was struggling much more with her anxiety and her OCD. She was just like, and it was the end of an 8-day trip. She was toast. And so she was doing her best. She's 5 at this point, I think, and just watching iPad. And then she had one moment of getting really upset about having the iPad taken away for takeoff. And she inadvertently, not on purpose, like accidentally kicked the seat in front of her. I told her not to. She calmed down. And then the person in front of us turned around and said, if you can't get control of your kids, you need to not be on an airplane. And I was like, is this really happening? Like, I am so conscious of my kids' behavior on airplanes. And she had one small moment, and this person was just a mom with her kids. And I ended up getting, also, I know my daughter, and she was doing her best. So it was just like a whole thing. So I explained to her after the flight, I was like, look, my daughter is neurodivergent. She's exhausted. She's doing her best. She had a moment, and then she fixed it. And as a fellow mom, I wish you had turned around and asked me if I needed some support instead of yelling at me about something that was not entirely within my control. So as the flight is getting later and later, I'm like, oh, my kids are going to be so tired, but everything was fine. They were great on the flight. They didn't make a peep. We landed at about 10:40, used the bathroom, get bags. At 11:15, we called a Lyft XL, our fourth or fifth one of the trip. And it was just like a series of unfortunate events. The driver gets there. He's in a Chrysler Pacifica minivan, and he pulled up really far away from us. And everybody's tired. Everybody's with the bags at the other end of the pickup. And so I walked over to him and I said, could you please pull ahead? I don't want to bring my kids and our bags over here. And he asked me really aggressively, he goes, how many? And I said, well, we have 5 people and everyone has a bag. And he goes, no, 5 people, 2 bags. I was like, what?
Like it's a negotiation. Like,
Which
okay.
5? How would 5 people have 2 bags?
Yeah.
And I don't have room for you. It won't fit. And I was like, well, this is the 4th or 5th time we've done a Lyft XL, and we have a lot of bags. We will load them ourselves. It's totally fine. We have fit no problem in all our other. He goes, no, you didn't. You had 2 cars. And I said, we really didn't. Like, we fit in cars smaller, much smaller than your van. And he goes, no, 5 people, 2 bags. And I said, okay, then I guess I'm not taking this ride and I'm going to call Uber instead. And he basically yelled at me. He's fine. I don't want your business. And so I was really like, it was probably not a big deal, but I was really shaken by it because it was late and it was dark and it was cold. We were waiting outside. It was like 40 degrees. And so I call Uber XXL because it was $35 more. But they advertise it as being for airport rides because it'll fit 6 people plus extra luggage. So what shows up for us but a Chrysler Pacifica? Exactly the same vehicle.
And I bet you fit.
We fit fine. We fit with room to spare. And so I was just really annoyed by that whole thing because we were tired. It only cost us maybe 15, 20 minutes, but it was also like $35. So that was.
But it's also like a loose thing. Like he was already there. He lost the ride.
Yeah.
Obviously, he could have fit.
Yeah. And then he just sat there in his car glaring at me until the ride departure time expired because I didn't want to cancel the ride and be charged for it. So I let him kind of let the timer run out. And then I just reported it to Lyft and they didn't charge me for it. So we got home at 12:15. The kids were asleep at 12:45. I think Dan and I were in bed at 1 a.m. And then we had already decided not to work or do school on Monday. And that was a great decision because nobody was ready. So we just all hung out at the house the next day, did our laundry, unpacked, whatnot. And that was that. So a really unpleasant end to an absolutely amazing trip. And it did not ruin a thing for me. Everything was great.
Yeah. So overall thoughts about traveling this time of year in terms of, crowds, weather, all that?
Weather was perfect. Between 65 and 80 and sunny. A week out, it looked like it was going to rain most of our trip, but I take that with a grain of salt because things change fast in Southern California. So weather was perfect. I would absolutely go back to Southern California at this time of year. I would avoid spring break if I were going to do it again. When we do Disneyland again, I think this isn't going to help me avoid crowds, but I think we'll go at Christmas time because I love the parks at Christmas, but I've never seen Disneyland at Christmas, but we will do it differently. I think we will do 3 or 4 days of park tickets, allowing us to really spread out our time, linger more, enjoy the ambiance because that's part of Christmas, and then also get done the rides we want to get done and have shorter days. Maybe do a rope drop day at each park and then an afternoon closing, nighttime day at each park. So I think that's what I would do when we go back. I wasn't sure if this would scratch the Disney itch for me because to this point, we've gone every 3 years. It did not scratch the itch. I'm not a full convert. I want to go back. I really liked it, but it wasn't Disney World to me. And it's not Disney World. It's not trying to be, but Disney World still feels like home. And so I would really like to get there in 2026. We'll see if Dan agrees with me.
I do. I feel like everybody has their home park and everything else just feels different or separate from that.
Yeah. Yes. And I think because I grew up going to Disney World, like living in the area, I don't think anything can shake that because I was there 2 weekends a month during some of the most formative years of my life. Like it's really a piece of my identity, even though we don't go all that often anymore. And so I don't think anything will replace what that is to me. But we do want to get around to more of the parks. We want to go to Disneyland Paris someday. I mean, getting to the Asian parks would be a dream, but that's not anything we're planning for. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think for those of us who treat the planning like a hobby, it's hard to get that particular scratch itched anywhere else but Disney World.
Yes, definitely. And like this trip was incredible because it was so cheap for us. We used points for everything but Disneyland tickets and food. And that's really different from staying in Disney World. But it's also a lot more magical in Disney World to be staying in the bubble. And it's so nice that at Disneyland you don't have to. But it did to only have 2 park days and then be staying at a totally non-themed hotel. It's just a different trip. And so staying for 6, 7, 8 days at a Disney resort within the Disney property bubble and taking Disney transportation and always being in a Disney restaurant, like it's just different and it's really special and both have their place. And with my sister moving back, I am so glad we did this before she leaves because it really felt like a once in a lifetime thing to have her there with us, to have my mom there. And so that was its own kind of special. And Disney World is going to be its own kind of special too when we go back.
Yeah, that's what I sometimes ask this question, but I hate being asked, which is, which one do you prefer? Because it's no, for those of us that are lucky enough to get to go to both, we don't have to pick.
No, we don't.
But they are different. And I think you've hit on a lot of the pros and cons. And like you were able to take advantage of one of the big pros, which is an offsite hotel that you use points with, and you could still get there pretty easily. So yeah, that is really nice. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to share, and I'm glad that you had a good trip.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. And it was so fun getting to process all of it with someone because, I mean, I just love listening to trip reports, but there's not really anyone in my own life who wants to hear this level of detail. And so I'm so thankful for the WDW Prep to Go community for being just as into it as I am, as you are, and for giving me a space to share. So thanks for having me.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed my conversations with Brittany. I always love hearing about a Disneyland trip. We did continue speaking after for Patreon in both video and audio form. I asked her more about some of the leg issues that she's having because I know that is a very common thing that can affect a Disney Parks trip as well as her future trip plans. So if you are a patron, look for that there. If you are not, feel free to join us. I think that'll wrap up this episode of WDW Prep to Go. For more information, you can always check the show notes in your podcast app or head to the website, WDWPrepSchool.com. Click on podcast at the top, scroll down to episode 458. Until next time, I will see you on the site.
Hey, friend, I know how this feels. Waking up exhausted after multiple trips to the bathroom and feeling embarrassed by sudden leaks. I used to be constantly on edge, searching for a restroom whenever I was out. Then I discovered Better Woman. I was skeptical at first, but 2 months in, everything changed. I experienced improved bladder control. No more heart-stopping moments when I laugh or sneeze. Less urge to go. Deeper and more restful sleep. I finally felt like myself again. Confident and in control. Better Woman is natural, effective, clinically tested, and trusted by women for over 25 years. Ready to take back your control? Head over to BeBetterNow.com to order your supply today. That's BeBetterNow.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Use as directed. Individual results may vary.